short story, and if you follow me on social media, you probably heard me tell this story before, but it's a good illustration of where most of my failure comes from. So I moved to St. Lucie just a few years ago. And when I moved up here, I saw that everybody was planting gardens. You know, every house got a kitchen garden. And I decided that I was going to plant a garden too. Now I'm from the point, I'm from the city. I don't know the first thing about planting gardens. I don't even know what the tools the name, like the difference between, this spade, and I had no clue. So a neighbor came, to help me to plant this garden. And I enjoyed the starting hard work, digging the ground, getting all the rocks out, forming the beds, planting the first seeds, like 2, 3 days of just hard, intense work. My back they're hurting me for weeks after from just getting this garden started. So finally we got it done. All of the vegetables planted. I even planted a pawpaw tree, a peach tree. I did the most in this garden, right? And the garden is there, and and I would come home, and my wife would ask me, Dario, you water the garden today? And I would say, man, you rainfall yesterday, man, the garden good. Or she would ask me, I will only remember to water the garden when she asked me, or when she looked like she was going to ask me. So before she could answer, I run over so quick and water the garden, right? So eventually, after, obviously, if I am not intentionally watering the garden, the whole garden died. Like, I don't know if you know how hard it is to kill a pawpaw tree. Like, it's hard to kill a whole tree, but the whole pawpaw tree dead, garden shrivel up. And one day, I came home and my wife, she said, Dario, sit down. I want to have a talk with you. And she said, you see that garden outside? I say, yeah, no, it's shame, because I know she was telling me to water the garden all the time. She said, you see that garden outside? I said, yes. She said that garden is a reflection of many areas of your life. And the conversation ended there. She didn't say another word. And I just sat in the chair just reflecting.
Oh, exactly.
Just reflecting on what she said, right? And she was right, right? And the essence of it is that I am very excited in the starting phases, in the hard work phases. Like, give me the task that you think is impossible to get done, that is going to cause for a lot of investment, a lot of thinking. And in those beginning phases, you got me. You got 100% commitment. You get my best ideas. You get my best effort. But you see, when it transitions into maintenance mode, when all I have to do now is on a daily basis, just come back and water the garden, care for the garden, do the things that are not as exciting, not as fun, but the things that are needed and necessary to keep the garden is where most of my failure has ended up. So when you think about the things that I would consider failures in my life, it was instances where I either overestimated the capacity that I had, I got it started, I got it off the ground, but then I was unable to follow through completely with it. And many of the pains, the hurts that I have experienced or caused others, it happens in my follow through. So that's where my major failures have happened over the years. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. That was a little bit rough. Daggers. That garden
No,
out
that,
there.
that wasn't a little bit rough. That was very rough. That was
That was
very, very rough.
good.
All right. Again, this was a little bit difficult for me to decide. Like, what would be the hard? Like, I could think of many things I feel as if I feel that. One of the things I decided to really zone in on that I feel it was recent, and I still think about it quite a bit. Was up until like almost 3 years ago, I decided to go into chicken farming. I had all of these grand ideas about what this project was going to do for the organization. I was even gonna do some way for myself too. This was gonna be the thing that I was gonna make millions from. I sat down, no, seriously, millions. I was thinking millions. I was like, man, look, there ain't enough eggs in Barbados. People, listen, these things will sell themselves. Um, so I really, I sat down and wrote everything, and then like, yeah, I wrote. I like writing, so I also know my
Yeah.
books,
Good Lord.
but I got all the calculations, and I'm like, good gosh, like seriously, like I could make this money. I know all the things I'm gonna do, and I decided to start the project. And like Dario, I usually get very excited when I start things. Some things I definitely continue with, some things may fall off, but this is one I was very committed to. But along the way, I don't think I was able to anticipate some of the challenges that would have come up with it. One, I knew that it would have taken the birds up to about 6 months before I got the first egg, right? But feeding, say, 1,500 birds or 500 birds for 6 months, when they haven't given you an egg, that money has to come from somewhere. And then if you want to expand, like what space are you going to be putting these things? So as I started to go along in the process and I started to see all of these things coming up, birds dying, the pen get compromised. Let's say a mongoose got in and, killing your thing. Like these are things that there's no way along the way I would have known had I not been doing it, doing the work. So with all that it would have entailed, and while I was doing it, I wanted to expand. And I feel as if I decided to expand way too early in the process. So because I knew that it was going to take 6 months before I got the first egg from a bird, and even when you do get an egg doesn't just start at the size that we get them at the supermarket. The eggs still need time to grow to get to decent size. It actually is more than 6 months that you need to be really pushing before you really start to see money from it. So while doing that, I said, well, when I get another set of birds, I can't wait 7, 8 months before I can really make money. So I decided, get another set early on too, so that, when these ones phase out, you don't have to wait all that long time and lose customers. And so I had all of these grand plans. So it meant that I was taking on more in terms of not just the space and the pen, but just the day-to-day. I didn't really calculate that the birds don't take a day off when they're laying eggs, right? So you can't be like, yo, it's the weekend, I need a break. I'm going on vacation, nothing. And I don't think I had anticipated how much it was going to begin to encroach on my life, my whole life, my house, my personal time, my family, Jabez's house, my heart, because then of course, because then it was giving so much time and energy to this new project, which was so demanding. Then in a lot of other ways, then things there, really started to kind of fall off. I was like behind on stuff, and so eventually I had to make a difficult, and it really hurt me to decide, what, I need to stop. Like I need to just end this, regroup, figure it back out. It's something I would definitely explore again sometime. But right now, given what you're losing, not just in terms of money and all that, but your time, things that you have to commit to, you're not able to really still follow through on. It really was, a hard decision just to say, well, you don't want to, but big picture and long term, you need to definitely put some more things in place so you can better execute this, and so that you don't have to feel as if you're losing other things in order for this one thing to possibly succeed. So it was a failure then, because of course, like I said, I was like, this is gonna make me millions. I had all of the, everything, like, yes, this was the plan. So to not see it happen and really work out the way that I had hoped and dreamt, it definitely was a big, I think, a big failure for me. And because of just all of the time, the money, the everything that was invested for the time that I was doing it, I would definitely say today it has been my biggest failure, for sure, for sure. For me, I think working through it really I had to say it was okay. I had to remind myself it was okay. I think the first few weeks afterwards, I did feel ashamed. I did feel like when people message like, "Yeah, you got eggs," and they're like, no, not anymore. But like, oh, what happened? You know, because the people want details, and I'm like, I'm not telling you what happened. Like in your business, I don't have any more eggs. You know, but I did feel a lot of that initially, but then I had to remind myself that I was willing to start it, and coming out of it, that was something that was very foreign to me. I had known nothing about agriculture, farming, whatever. So to be able to take a bird, a chick at a few days old, and I mean, every single one I brooded myself, every single one. I mean, I was committed to it. And I said, if I want to take this as a business that's going to be so big, I must know all of these steps. And I remember meeting this gentleman. He was a multimillionaire. He had one of the largest chicken farms at the time on island. He was supplying the supermarkets. He was just doing everything. I mean, he has a massive property with pens that, I mean, some of his pens can hold up to 20,000 and 50,000 birds. So you're talking about a ginormous operation. And in talking to him before he started, I realized like you have to know, you can't just leave a business or leave something that you want to do to somebody else to build for you. When you start, you need to know, you need to understand it so that you're really able to know then what you will have to do, who you will need to put in place, etc. And I did that. And I felt coming away from it, I grew from the knowledge. Like this is another area that, if I wanted to do it again, I would know how to do it, and I would know how to do it well as learn from so many of the things that failed. So I had to remind myself that it's okay that it didn't work out this time. What did you learn from it? There are people who have ideas and they don't want to start, but at least you were willing to start it. You were willing to get down and dirty, quote unquote. And I think that as I work through the feelings of shame, I feel like, it didn't work out. Just then looking and saying, well, hey, this is something you did not know before. This is another part of you that you didn't know you had. I never knew that I would have loved farming the way I did. I never knew that I would have fun going into a pen every single day with hundreds of birds, therapeutic, and enjoy it. And, like it was something that I did not know. And people sometimes seeing me thinking that I always look so put together and, would not have expected it from me. So all of those things then I felt like, but you grew from this, you discovered from this, you are better for it. So it didn't work out this time or the way you wanted, but look at the things you can take away. And for me, that really helped me to work through all of those different feelings, as well as knowing that, you made a choice looking at big picture for where you were at now. And it's okay. Sometimes it doesn't mean that it's not right for you. It may just not have been the right time. So you have a young family, you're doing a lot of things that are happening, say from your house, because I didn't think when they had once the birds started laying, that I would have to have hundreds of eggs every single day at my house that have to now be washed and cleaned and packaged. And, like there are things I never would have known. So looking back at it, I said, you know what, it's okay. Like you came away from this learning, growing, having explored, and that really helped me to resolve it within myself that it was okay. And yeah, I would do it again. And no, I don't feel any regret about it because of the things I learned from it as well.
Nice. And Dario, how about you?
Yeah. I just saw my wife join the conversation. So I guess she will be there as a testament to my responses after the garden ordeal. So when I eventually got over the offense, because obviously it was offensive, it was a good offense, I am not one of those people who believe that you should tell people things in a way that don't offend them, because nobody wants to hear anything bad about themselves.
Right.
She could have carried me, she could have bought tickets and go to dinner and send me wherever I want to go and buy me wherever I want, and then tell me at the end I would still be offended because it's something for me, right? But how my brain works immediately after that, I immediately went into one, what are the other areas of my life where this is really happening? And how can I prevent it going forward in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I actually came up with this acronym that I now live by. It is coined by check yourself. You know, you gotta keep
Mm.
yourself and keep yourself in check,
Great.
and use check as an acronym, which only happened after this experience. So check, CHECK, and the C is for clarity. So I realized how important clarity will become in my dealing with anything going forward. And there are many things we need clarity on, but the most important thing that I realized out of that experience was we need to be clear on who we are. We need to be self-aware, because if I was self-aware, if I was aware of the fact that I love to start things and I fall down in the follow through from the beginning, I would have asked somebody else to do it with me,
Right.
because I know I can be good for the dig up. You may not be here for the dig up, but you may be happy going out and water the plants, you know?
Yeah.
So I would have asked for help from the beginning. Or if I was aware, I would have started small. So instead of trying to go sit and dig up, beds, I would have got some of them bottles
Blue
and bring the
can.
plant inside the house, or the blue cans, ready to ring, and just like having an awareness, because oftentimes what feels like failure is really just us acting in ignorance and not being aware of our strengths. Or oftentimes, what feels like failure is really an over exaggeration of our strength. Sometimes you can have a strength that's so strong it becomes a weakness.
Right.
you
Yep.
know. Um, so clarity was the first thing. The second thing was habits. What are the habits, the core habits I needed to develop to prevent myself from doing these things again. So one of the habits that I have now in my decision making is that I run major decisions in my life through a chain of people. So once it's going to be a big decision, I no longer make decisions by myself. There are specific people that I bounce them off of to hear their perspective, to get insight on if they think it is the right timing. So that's a habit that I have now developed in my decision making process, just as an example. The third one is to evaluate. So now I am very intentional about evaluating my progress, evaluating when I set a goal and I say I want it to be done by this time and by that time. We have systems now where we evaluate a community. Um, I began to be very intentional too about the people are allowed to speak in and to encourage me. And then the last one, the key, is to just keep going. Because as good fancy as that framework song, I don't do it as often as I used to, but there's still some things that after that I have started that I have not followed through on. But they're no much less, or the impact, like the impact of the things that I have quote unquote failed to follow through on, the consequences now are not as much as they were in the past. They're usually small things. But the big things that I am involved in, that I know that if I don't follow through, if I don't commit to it, it will have a real negative impact, not just on me, but on my wife, on my family, or others. I am now much more intentional to check myself in the process. So that's how I responded, just because that's how my brain works, to make sure I put a system in place to try my best. And even when I still drop the ball, to just keep going, just get back up and do it again, because in my first failure, in my last failure, is just to make sure you keep going. As Shamelle said, just keep going.
I actually never thought about the gender thing until you're saying it. So I
Mm-hmm.
really can't say. I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel. The truth is, whenever I did tell anybody that I was doing farming and specifically chickens, I always got the very surprised. There was always this like, not with them nails or those responses all the time. And I actually started to like it. I was like, good, because I'm gonna shock you, right? Like I expect this from me, and it was fine. So I don't know that I felt any of that when I started. I did have all of the persons I talked to were male, because I didn't know another female. So let's say when I went to Gales, all of the persons there, and I found that actually everybody's, I don't know if because, so many people see a woman and she, oh, poor thing, she's gonna be so helpless, I will need to rescue her. But I found that persons were always willing to help and, I think so throughout the process, I didn't, I didn't really feel any way about the whole gender thing. And even afterwards, I don't know that I
Mhm.
felt like being a woman played a role in it not, you know, working out the way I had wanted, or no, I wouldn't say so right now.
Even up to now, I have obviously huge considerations on what are my expectations as a man, as a husband, as a father. Those things play a huge role in how I perceive and experience failure. Even down to the question of that you asked at the beginning about what legacy I want to leave. I even think of that through the lens of me being a man and what I want to pass to my children, what I think will be important to give to my children. Um, but again, that's where I think self awareness is important because oftentimes what I perceive or what I know for sure, especially from a very young age or when I started, I guess thinking for myself on some degree, that much of what I perceive to be a man or being manly or be the requirement of a strong man was really false. It was really grounded in just block talk. Talking, hearing, or getting advice from people who just did not have a clue. So part of my self awareness was becoming clear on what really are my expectations as a man, and in the midst of failure, how not do I just experience success because every meal, and not just meal, everybody loves their ego to be strong. I love when my wife tells me good job, or man, I see that improvement, I see the effort. I see that you're handling this much differently to how you would have before. I love to hear them things too, then it's make me feel good, make me feel manly. The problem is when I need that from everyone. When it is that that I look for that ego stroke, I look for that affirmation. I seek to please and impress everybody. But no, part of self-awareness is me realizing that I only need that from a few people. I need
Right.
that from my wife. Ultimately, I need that from my children. At this point, they give free affirmation. If anybody's made me feel like I'm the best person in the whole world, it's my children. When they see me, it's like heaven has arrived. So my gender affects it, but because I have grown in my self-awareness, I have really managed, where I expect the ego strokes and my manliness affirmations to come from, which has helped me a lot. So it has helped me not to desire to please people or to go the extra mile just so somebody would tap me on the back or something.
I would definitely encourage the individual, especially if it's something major, to get some counsel. As Dario has said, just having those persons that you can bounce it off of, because that really makes a big difference. You may be one of those people who might just be ready to just jump off and go. There's certain things you may not have calculated or properly considered. And sometimes having someone else who is on the outside looking in, who can weigh in, could definitely make the difference in you really succeeding, or something that could be fast tracked. Like there's some things you would, somebody's talking to someone helps with. So I would really encourage that. I would also say, even in doing your research and talking to others, if it's something that you really do feel strongly about and you have done your due diligence, even if you feel afraid or even if you're uncertain as to whether or not you will succeed, still take the plunge. I mean, once you have done all of what I said earlier in terms of, making sure, because sometimes in doing your research and talking to others and all that, there is always still going to be that risk because we never know if something is really, really, really going to work out. And even sometimes the best thought, hope, plans don't always go the way we imagine. And there will always be that fear. There's always that fear of the unknown. And too often oftentimes we allow that fear of the unknown to stop us from doing something. You know, we hear 99% of projects do succeed, and then we're thinking, shoot, so it's only a 1% chance. But you suppose it's the 1%. We forget everything else and we on the 1% when we possibly could succeed. So I would say you may feel the fear, but as people say, feel the fear and do it anyway. Once you have, make sure you've done your research, you've calculated what you can calculate, you've talked to others who obviously know what to advise you on, and who will have your best interest at heart, and just do it. I mean, you don't want to live a life of regret. That's something for me. That's a fear of mine. I don't want to live my life and just look back and be like, I wonder how this would have worked out if I did. I'm sorry that I didn't. Like,
my first response would definitely be similar to Shamelle. Mentorship and counseling is key. I think that's important, especially in our context and in our culture. Finding a voice that has walked the path before and is willing and open to sharing information freely will help you to avoid so many mistakes. So I agree with that 100%. The other thing that I would say, just not to repeat what Shamelle would have mentioned, is I would advise them to pace themselves. And what I mean by that, there's this quote that says, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And the idea is that we just want to build a 10-year company in 12 months, right? And what causes us to fail, what causes us to crumble isn't that the idea couldn't have worked. It's just that we try to do too much too soon. And the heart of it is, by pace yourself, is just being clear on what is the next best step that I need to take, and take that step extremely well.